Hey guys, welcome back to Mobisium. Today we have with us the brand new OnePlus 5 flagship killer. It released in Mumbai on the 22nd of June. Immediately after, it went on flash sale between 4:30 p.m. and 12 midnight, exclusively on Amazon. Since then, it's been my daily driver and it's absolutely beautiful. But before we talk about the phone, let's talk a little about the company. OnePlus is a Chinese company which started I think 2012. It's basically a subsidiary of the company BBK, which also owns Oppo and Vivo, interestingly enough. Aside from that, they consider themselves a small company because they just have a few hundred employees solely with them, but having the parent company being BBK, they have some really strict manufacturing channels. They have a super large supply chain and an amazing manufacturing process, all thanks to their parent company. So that's about them being a small company. Exactly like a lot like Apple and Samsung, OnePlus offers just one flagship phone per year for us to play around with. And the phones are known more for their flagship killer specs and the price, which is comparatively lower, that they offer for the phones. Let's talk about the specs real quick. They have the latest and greatest quad-core Snapdragon 835 processor with some 6GB of low-power DDR4 RAM. It's the second phone in the market to have Bluetooth 5.0 right after the Samsung Galaxy S8. Alongside that, we have a 16 megapixel and 20 megapixel dual camera. 16 megapixels is the wider angle, and the 20 megapixel is the telephoto lens. The advantage here is that when you're zooming in and you're zooming in further, you'd want a lot more data, hence 20 megapixels on that. Aside from that, having a dual camera helps a lot with portrait mode because it gets a slightly angled view from the other lens of your subject. Hence helps to blur out the background, and that's how it works so phenomenally well. There is a little bit of like softening and a little bit of rough edges along the subject and the image often, but that's alright. It's the first mode. It's the first time they're running with this portrait mode anyway. Just like Apple did with their beta version, they had quite a few issues with it. Same way they're gonna have the same way. I mean, you had to expect from the first version. You had to expect a few issues from the first version, right? So the 6GB RAM variant comes in the slate grey color like we have here. It costs about 33,000 rupees. The 128GB 8GB RAM version comes in the matte black colorway with which costs about 38,000 rupees. At first look at the back of the phone, it reminds you of another very famous flagship, iPhone 7 Plus. But honestly, like MKBHD said, the back is more about how it feels and how it looks, and it feels incredible. It feels nothing like the iPhone 7 Plus, which is not particularly a good thing, but it's good in its own way, right? The front looks very similar to its predecessor, only thing different are the chamfered edges and slightly thinner side bezel. The top bezel is the exact same. Also, the fingerprint sensor is slightly wider here and, as usual, incredibly fast. Like absolutely scarily fast. It's insane. The frame in the back are made of aluminium, and the 5.5-inch AMOLED display is protected by the Corning Gorilla Glass 5. The OnePlus motto just does say never settle, but they seem to have settled with the display. It is the exact same as the OnePlus 3T. It's a 1080p HD display. No complaints though, it still looks ultra sharp. I love it. The phone looks just fine, and it's just slightly thinner than the OnePlus 3T. It runs on the latest Android stock Oxygen OS. Overall, the user interface is pretty stock. There's no bloatwares, no first-party apps, nothing of the sort. It's pretty stock Android in itself and very clean. I like it. The phone comes with a reading mode that automatically filters out blue light and adjusts the AMOLED display to make it look more like, say, a Kindle when you're reading at night, and protects your eyes like that. There's also a system-wide night mode and a handful of other hidden features which are pretty awesome. The phone's powered by the latest and the best CPU in the market, so any kind of lag while gaming is absolutely unquestionable. Aside from that, it's got to serve all of these needs, it has a massive 3300 mAh battery, 100 mAh less than the OnePlus 3T, but I think that's because of the new Snapdragon processor. The 835 uses a lot less battery, which is actually cool because the battery still lasts a whole day, and even if it doesn't, the dash charger could provide a whole day's battery in just a half hour. Coming back to the camera, we already spoke about this, but it's an incredible 16 and 20 megapixel dual camera with a dual tone flash right here. Along with this great hardware, the app is also very similar to the iPhones, but it's pretty spectacular in itself. It has the portrait mode like the iPhone, which does not perform as well, but it still works quite nicely. Alongside, the autofocus is really fast, but oftentimes it's misplaced, and in low light you'll find a lot of noise in the photos. I just don't feel like the camera on this phone is ready to compete with flagships just about yet. Otherwise, it still makes for a great camera for daily use. But the performance is in fact par with the Samsung Galaxy S8s, and the design's pretty neat as well. But since they've upped the price from their predecessors, I just don't think that you can call them a flagship killer anymore. I feel like they're heading towards more on like a level competition. But overall, this was my experience with the OnePlus 5. I thoroughly enjoyed it nonetheless. I feel for the price, it brings you a lot more value. But then again, for another 10-15,000, considering you're using a phone for a good 2 to 3 years, putting in another 10-15,000 might get you something a lot more sustainable like an iPhone 7, since the iPhone 8 is coming out and the iPhone 7's price is going to drop further. But these are my thoughts, and this is my full review of the OnePlus. Do subscribe to Mobisium. We do high quality tech reviews and we have a lot cooler stuff coming soon. Thank you for watching. Good night.